Shogo, Mobile Armor Division, or Shogo MAD, as abbreviated, is a very unique first-person shooter game that came to the computer gaming market in October of 1998. It offers up an old-school or boomer shooter, as we seem to call them nowadays, type of experience with the eye-catching stylings inspired by Japanese animations like Patlabor, Gundam, Appleseed, or Evangelion. Now, I'd never heard of this one before. I happened across it while stumbling through the Steam store and was enamored by the colored pencil artwork used as the cover. The character standing in front of a Patlabor-styled mecha with dramatic explosions behind. This was an immediate pick up and play for me, and also a nearly immediate realization why I had never heard of this one. There is a reason the lead designer, Craig Hubbard, expressed in retrospect the game was, quote, a grim reminder of the perils of wild optimism and unchecked ambition. I should probably make note that the team who made this one was American studio Monolith Productions. No, not to be confused with the Japanese Monolith Soft, who also played with mecha themes in their Xenosagas and Xenoblades, but Monolith, responsible for games like Blood, No One Lives Forever, Fear, Condemned Criminal Origins, and Middle-earth Shadows of Mordor. Another thing worth pointing out is that the back end of Shogo, it was running their own game engine, Lithtech. Different iterations of it had been used in a few games here and there, but it probably doesn't have the household name quality of its competitors at the time. You know, the Quake or Unreal engines. The Unreal Engine especially has had a tremendous amount of staying power. Let's set the stage a little bit for Shogo's release year for comparative purposes before anything else. This is sometimes considered one of the greatest years of all time for gaming because of things like the Unreal Engine making its debut with the first Unreal game. Not only that, but in the shooter game space, we also saw the landmark title Half-Life release. That makes some steep competition. As far as the general gaming market, we also had the greatest of all times, like Ocarina of Time, Metal Gear Solid, Banjo-Kazooie, Baldur's Gate, Star Siege Tribes, StarCraft, etc. Very, very strong year for gaming, very hard sell for a game ramshackled together to meet release deadlines after a very challenging development cycle. Before we get too deep into it, hi, I'm Empty. I'm a bit of a mecha noob who has discovered a deep interest in giant robot media and decided to document my experiences and thoughts, mostly about video games, through this YouTube channel. If you'd like to keep up with my stuff, don't forget to hit the sub button. If you just want to have a chat about some sci-fi robot suits blasting each other, don't hesitate to use the comment section. Thanks. The plot is a bit hobbled together. There is a narrative technique called show, don't tell, and Shogo, Mobile Armor Division, is more of a tell while not showing experience. The game is fully voiced, and each level has an intro-outro sort of thing with various amounts of communications throughout the levels, but a lot of the time it does feel like there's a lack of context or connection to what is being said, which led to a difficulty in immersion for me. That and a lot of the main hero character saves the world story is heavily peppered through with an attempt into family romance drama, and the twists and turns of the story lack impact, considering dramatic plot setups happen in a limited text paragraph to preface the first level of the game. Let me try to explain. The story centers around the character Sanjuro, who is some sort of military man for the United Corporate Authority, or UCA, during a war for a planet named Cronus, as it's a substantial mining colony for a resource known as Kato. On the enemy side, a group of vaguely religious-themed rebels called the Fallen, led by a certain Gabriel, want us not to colonize the planet and mine the Kato, for some reason. So it's up to Sanjuro, as dispatched by the Leviathan spaceship, to go blast away the rebels with his mobile combat armor suit. Okay, so to preface the Character plot: the game starts 2 years after a failed mission with your squad that led to the death of not only Sanjiro's lover, Kira, but his brother Toshiro, and also his childhood best friend Baku. To make this even more dramatic, at some point after their deaths, Sanjiro started banging Kira's sister, Catherine. All of these characters work together in the same military unit because I guess conflict of interest doesn't exist in this sci-fi future. Oh yeah, and all of your group's boss, the commander of the Leviathan ship, Admiral Akaraju, is also the father of the sisters Kira and Catherine. What a soap opera mess. So, Sanjiro's dispatched to go kill Gabriel and his right-hand man Uziel to end the war, whatever, but is calmed by this Plants vs. Zombies looking character named Hank Johnson. It turns out he's a secret friend of Kira's, your, former lover who's dead, and helps you out of a trap. Been set up into a trap. At some point, while battling through the city, you seemingly accidentally get communications from Kira. It turns out she's not dead. Her death was staged without your knowledge, so she could go undercover to infiltrate the Fallen. Her dad knew this, but her sister didn't. She also lets you in that your brother, Toshiro, is actually not dead either, and he's actually Gabriel, who is actually Cothiniel. But that also means that your best childhood friend is also not dead and is secretly Uziel, Gabriel's right-hand man. This is a plot twist that didn't do much for me because, to be honest, I had no idea what the heck is going on. Kira gets captured by the local military, the CMC, and with the help of a corporate bro named Ryu Ishikawa from Shogo Industries, you go to rescue her. Ryo stabs you in the back. Unceremoniously, he ends up blasting Hank in the face with a shotgun. You end up rescuing the girl. Her dad is apparently tired of dealing with the entire conflict and takes it upon himself to act past orders of his high command. He plans to use a big spaceship gun to do something of an exterminatus to the entire planet, I guess. Finally, you meet with your brother, and then the game does something a bit unique per FPS. It gives you a choice with alternate endings. Do you thwart the Admiral in favor of the Fallen, or side with him and destroy them? So apparently this Cothiniel creature creates the Kato ore everybody is fighting over. It's, mind-controlled Toshiro, I guess, and the Fallen to some extent, and I guess it just wants bodily autonomy. The Admiral's space cannon is really also a manipulation technique by Ryo and Shogo Industries so that they can take corporate control of the planet. So if you stop the space gun, you get to take revenge for Hank and blast Ryo, the Admiral gets court-martialed, the CMC surrender, and the Fallen make a truce with you for some reason. Alternatively, if you want to go defeat Gabriel, Cothiniel, and Ryo, the Admiral still gets investigated by High Command. We attempt peace with Cothiniel, since I guess we don't actually kill him. Finally, by the end of either story, it's unclear which waifu Sanjiro gets at the end, Kira or Catherine. Or maybe this terrible love triangle just perpetuates past the post-credits sequence. Gameplay-wise, for the most part, it's the sort of experience you'd expect. There's 40 or so levels at various lengths, some are disappointing few seconds long, while others are frustrating mazes that take a bit of time. More annoyingly, because there seems to be a lack of map in this game entirely. Similarly, I couldn't get the sprint button to function for some reason. I thought maybe it was locked to mech type or only ground combat, but anything I picked, it didn't seem to do anything. Anyways, there's a bunch of guns. Pistols, shotguns, machine guns, Instagib-type lasers, grenade launchers, rocket launchers, timed explosives, knives, all that good stuff. I can't say any of these really felt bad or inferior to one another in any way as much as they all made things go boom. This game puts the boom in a boom-er-shooter. Everything explodes. The mechs, the cars, the environmental boxes, the people. When you're in the MCA suit, you get to do that ever-satisfying stompy dance to turn foot soldiers into splattered goo. And it goes without saying, the level structure has you bouncing between being on foot or in suit, like an archaic version of Titanfall. During the MCA sequences, you get the choice of 4 different suits. Each suit has a different stat set for speed, as well as health pool, armor rating, and weapon loadout. Something else that is interesting here is that you've got the option to turn into a vehicle with various handling per mech. The downside is that due to the level design, largely close quarters and winding map layouts, the vehicle use is pretty much not useful. What I mean is that I used it a couple times at the very beginning of the game when I learned that it was a feature, and then quickly forgot that it was even an option to do until I came back to write this review. Similarly with the option for third-person camera view. Something that is interesting is the critical hit system. I don't think I've ever seen this present in any other FPS games before. Weapons all have a crit stat, which, when procced, creates a larger damage output. This can also be achieved by the enemies on the player, by the way. That could be part of why I felt like the on-foot sections were so difficult. The game really seems to reward someone who wants to replay each level, memorizing every enemy location, because a lot of the time I felt like I was being jump-scared into a one-hit kill around every corner or every door that I opened. Even on easy mode, the foot soldiers seemed to have pinpoint accuracy straight for my forehead the single fraction of a second they had line of sight of it. And speaking of the doors, the amount of times my character would get stuck in them and explode was also very frustrating. That, combined with a lack of map and no good visual disparity between which doors are interactable or not, was not a great experience. There's no interact button, so you gotta walk straight into things to interact with them. Some doors open automatically, some require buttons or switches, some are permanently locked, and some are only opened via a scripted enemy encounter. I spent a lot of time bumping around into all the doors, buttons, switches, computer terminals, and randomly exploding into all of them. Now, this game does also have multiplayer features, as well as years of community mods at this point. These aren't something that I personally experienced in any capacity, so it's hard for me to go into any detail about them, but I have noticed while doing research for the video of various users pointing those interested in the direction of a community Discord server for Shogo, which makes me assume that there are still people playing the multiplayer, albeit I assume this is likely a small number of folks at this point. I didn't play it, but I felt like it was worth mentioning regardless. At this point, the advent of cell shading has mostly standardized the anime cartoon to 3D model styling for video games, but Shogo is from a time before that, and made by an American studio that I don't think had a portfolio of this style, and yeah, sheesh, the characters in this game didn't age that well. Some, like Hank, even have a visual style that reminds me more of a modern Western 3D animation than a 90s Japanese anime cartoon. Combine that with how visually segmented the characters are, makes them pretty ugly to go back and look at, to be honest. On the other hand, the low-poly, segmented look still works out fine for the MCAs, in my opinion, or maybe I'm just a sucker for the big robots. From a visual perspective, the maps look pretty on par with what I remember of games at the time, and I quite enjoy it, actually. At some point, I'd like to hop back into the game and use the no-clip free-cam cheat so that I can scout around different environments and take cool screenshots of them. They have a classic FPS game feel, of course, cyberpunk, gritty cities, and science fiction spaceship laboratories. There's a lot of silly graphics around, referential to other media or jokes as well, if that's your thing. Magazine racks of referencing their game Blood, billboards for Amish death metal, the soda pop machines with bikini anime girls, posters of Evangelion's Nerve logo parodied as Curve. As you can tell, a lot of these are lowbrow and likely referential to female anatomy. This will probably be hit or miss for most people, but I did enjoy the soundtrack in this, albeit it was pretty short. By the end of the game, it did get repetitive, and I can definitely see how it would be very annoying for somebody not in tune with it. It's got some more energetic, maybe heavy metal melodies intertwined with 90s industrial synth sounds, and I'm going to be a bit presumptuous here, pseudo-Asian styled instruments or sound fonts. It's got a strangely captivating, dissonant, and avant-garde angle to it that I want to say must have been inspired by the soundtrack for the anime movie Akira. Also, the game has a theme song made by the Tokyo-based musician Yohei Takashima. General game sounds, you'll hear a lot of what are seemingly pulled from a sound asset pack used in anime cartoons. Various swings and schwangs and dings, everything from jumping to characters noticing you a la Metal Gear Solid exclamation points over their head. I like the use here, it really ties in the vibes. Shogo is one of the most pain-in-the-rump games I've tried to play in recent years. While I did manage to play into Credit Scroll, I was very ready for this one to be over with sooner, solely based on its bugs and crashing problems. I know part of this is because the game is old and doesn't get along with modern computers, but regardless, that makes it really hard to go back to in our current day and age. Also, I did follow some user guides on player-made patches and setups to hopefully deter these problems, but they still unfortunately persisted. So here's a short list of the sorts of things that I had problems with and encountered. The game crashing. A lot. Basically constantly. When it would crash, it would turn off font smoothing for my entire computer. To turn this back on, I'd have to go through the start wizard thing again every single time. Sometimes the game wouldn't launch at all, or would crash while launching. Characters would sometimes be floating, spinning, and shooting during cutscenes. Floors and walls would turn black or multiply. The sprint button didn't work. Parts of the model of the gun in the middle of the screen would clip through itself. The game really needs some help if you want to play it on modern hardware, and this plays really heavy into a huge negative I'm about to explain. The current rights holder, I guess that would be the publisher Interplay, actually raised the price of the game back in November for some reason. Literally doubled its price. For perspective, this is a 27-year-old game. It has been re-released for the digital market for at least 16 years, and it got an arbitrary price doubling in 2025. Why? They seemingly didn't go through and patch it in any capacity whatsoever. They did not restore any content, they did not add any new content, there was no further support, but a price increase. Not just an increase, but a complete 100% increase. It was originally $10, and now the game is $20. That sucks. Final thoughts, Shogo Mad is an interesting and unique look at an early take on an anime mecha game through the lens of a Western video game studio. It's not a game that has aged well, and much like its challenged development cycle, it is a challenge to get up and running on modern computers. On one hand, going back to it presents a mid to bad experience, however, on the other hand, it is a sort of one-of-a-kind novelty, like the video game version of a historical museum piece. It's weird, it's quirky, it's clunky, but maybe those are the things that make it special.